Hey guys, I'm CMA Super and welcome to my very first Company of Heroes 2 video. And in fact, this video that you're going to be watching is actually the very first Company of Heroes 2 multiplayer match that I played. I played a whole bunch of single player matches against the AI before this one, but this one is the very first multiplayer match that I played, so my very first time facing a real opponent that is not an AI. So I am playing as the Russians. My opponent is playing as the non-Russians, otherwise known as the Germans or the Osttier. And I think the Russians are actually the CCCP or I don't know. There's something. USSR, I guess you should say, because they're not Russia right now. But anyways, I am playing as Russians. My opponent's the Germans, and we are playing on some map that I don't know the name of, but it is the 1v1 map that does not have snow on it, so we won't be seeing any of the snow or the cold tech things in this game, but that is fine because there's still plenty to talk about in this game compared to Company of Heroes. So to start this game off, as the Russians, I always build a conscript squad rather than building a second engineer squad, and that is because the engineers and the conscripts cost the same amount of manpower, 240 manpower each, and as a result, the engineers are not really worth getting because I mean they do have more abilities than the conscripts, but the conscripts are better at fighting. And when in the early game, when you want to go out fighting and capturing points, you obviously want conscripts, not engineers. So I built two conscript squads, and now I'm building a second engineer squad, and that is because I want to use it to build the tier 1 or tier 2 buildings, because those are the two you can build by default as the Russians. And I think I usually like to get the tier 1 building when I'm playing as the Russians, just because it does have access to some decent early game units. I can't remember what they are, sadly, but it does have access to some decent early game units. Now, looking at the HQ, at least I was looking at the HQ, you can see I was upgrading Molotovs, and that makes my conscripts able to throw Molotovs and significantly hurt the German infantry unless they move. If they move, they shoot less accurately. So basically, Molotovs are worth using as long as you have the munitions to use them. And I actually find in this game, as both factions, Russians and Germans, you can throw Molotovs or you can throw grenades quite often because you get so many munitions. Like, you get so many more than you need in this game, as opposed to Company of Heroes 1, where you would be lucky to get enough munitions as either faction. Now, here you can see I have used the Ura ability, and if you don't know what that does, it basically just makes it so that your troops fight better and they move faster. It does cost 5 or 10 munitions. I cannot remember how much it costs, but it costs something very, very little munitions. So I figure in any battle it is always worth doing that. And the one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't negate suppression, so I am getting suppressed over in the middle of the map where one of the choke points is, and so I'm going to have to retreat from there. I just haven't done it yet. I believe I am luring the enemy into that location. But my pioneers here, or engineers rather, have been sitting in the base for quite a while, and I finally remembered I built them, so I decided to build the Tier 1 building, whatever it may be called. I actually don't know the building names for any of the buildings in this game, I just call them Tier 1 to 4, and I have a good idea of what they make. I don't even know what each building makes. I don't know the factions in this game too well, but I do know it well enough to actually beat people in this game, so that is a good thing. In the middle, I did lose a conscript squad because they were retreating, and apparently you are more vulnerable on retreat in this game than you were in Company of Heroes 1, so I wasn't prepared for retreating earlier than I should have, or was I earlier than I was used to, that's what I meant to say. So I ended up losing the squad because I retreated too late, so I am one conscript squad down. I now have 2 engineer squads and 1 conscript squad, and I am apparently building another conscript squad, I believe. Looking at the top right, I can see some icon building. And up at the top right is your list of units, and that's how I'm seeing what units I have right now as I am playing. So I am down a squad compared to my opponent. My opponent has not lost any squads, but I'm still doing a good job capturing the map, so I would say it's not hurting me too much. I mean, I would like to have that other conscript squad, but it's not too bad that I don't have it. And my engineers are clearly going to win that battle against his pioneers, so he retreated. Good job. So over here with my conscript squad at the bottom of the map, I decide to go and capture this fuel point after sitting in green cover for a while because they were actually getting chased by some squad. I believe it was a grenadier squad, which is a unit that the Germans get from their tier 1 building, and they do have to build tier 1 before they can really build any fighting units because their HQ only gives them pioneers, no conscript equivalent, so they do have to build tier 1. Now I will say the Grenadiers versus Conscripts, it's basically about the same, and it's just a matter of distance and luck to determine who's going to win. Conscripts are better at close range, Grenadiers are better at long range. Conscripts can oorah and throw Molotovs. I believe Grenadiers can throw grenades. I am almost positive they can throw grenades, I'm not entirely sure. But it's basically just random, unless you use oorah. If you use oorah on your Conscripts, which I quite often do, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to win the fight one-on-one versus Grenadiers, so I always do it when I remember to, and when I can, because it is quite cheap. It's 5 or 10 munitions, it's not very much. And like I said earlier in this game, munitions are easy to come by, and I didn't explain why they're easy to come by, I just said that they're easy to come by. So the way points work in this game is strategic points do not give you more manpower. In Company of Heroes 1, they gave you +3 manpower. In Company of Heroes 2, instead they give you some fuel and some munitions. So capturing any point of any kind on the map will give you more fuel and or munitions, depending on if you capture a strategic point or a fuel point or a munitions point. Strategic point is the only one that will give you both fuel and munitions. But yeah, you get plenty of fuel and munitions from those. Really, you get plenty of munitions. I have found myself needing fuel more often than munitions, so I would say that you do get plenty of munitions, maybe 2 money, but you do. So I always use oorah on my conscripts whenever I can, and I also throw Molotovs whenever it makes sense, and I get flamethrower upgrades whenever I can, because those are really nice. I'm about to lose that squad here. If I retreated them, but am I going to lose them? I did lose them. No. They disappeared from the top right of the screen, so I know I lost them. Which reminds me of a complaint I have with this game. It is hard to see what is what on the minimap. There's just so many things on there. I feel like they need to reduce the number of dark lines on the minimap from the map, like the whole map and terrain, and increase the visibility of like terrain sectors and units on the minimap. That's just one complaint I have with the UI. I know I'm not the only person who doesn't like the UI in Company of Heroes 2. It's just so hard to see anything. And it really is, so I'm going to complain about that. Because it's a terrible UI, it just makes it so hard to see things. So in the middle here, we have a fight going on a choke point, one of the bridges. And the middle is actually a triangle with 3 points, one on the left, one on the right, and one below the left and right in the middle of them. So it's like an equilateral triangle with a point at the bottom rather than the top. And so that was one of the legs of that triangle, one of the lower legs, the right lower leg. And I was trying to flank him there, but it didn't go so well, and I ended up losing another conscript squad. So that sucked. I am just losing units in the early game here, but I am doing a good job of keeping map control. And oh, you're gonna try and flank me, or not flank me, suppress me with that MG, are you? Well, I am gonna go past you with my flamer engineers and kill you, hopefully. He's not retreating. Oh, he's setting up to kill the MG. Kill it. I'm not even bothering to go on the other side of it. There we go. It is killed, and now my opponent has grenadiers and a sniper coming after my engineers, so I had to retreat, because there was no way I could win that fight. Snipers are actually a bit weird in this game, compared to Company of Heroes 1. I'm not going to say it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know yet. I haven't used them enough to determine an opinion yet, but they are different, and that is because you cannot cloak them in the middle of a road, and you can't cloak them anywhere you want. They basically cloak on their own when they're in cover, and that makes them more of a static unit, or a behind the lines unit, really, if you are moving around, which is perfectly fine, because I don't know why. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what they're like, and it is perfectly fine. Like I said, I don't have an opinion on it. Haven't used them enough, but they are just different. That's all I wanted to say about snipers. The Soviet sniper actually has 2 men as well, and we will get to see sniper action in this game later on in the game, so you can look forward to that. Down in the south here, I am trying to capture points with my conscript squad, but my opponent has a grenadier squad and a sniper over there, so that didn't go too well. I just ended up retreating. I have noticed that snipers actually are extremely accurate against retreating squads. I have yet to see a single sniper miss a retreating squad. They are that accurate. It's insane. So if you are ever facing a sniper, make sure you retreat early. And also, if you're ever facing just regular infantry, retreat early because, um, as you've seen, your units don't have. You don't. You take more damage during retreat in this game than you did in Company of Heroes 1. That's what I'm trying to say. But as I was explaining that, you may have seen an NMG bunker sitting in the middle of the map that my opponent built. So I was just like, well, okay, how do I counter this thing? He's trying to pin me in my base with MG bunkers. I don't really know how to counter these MG bunkers because they are emplacements and I basically only have infantry. In fact, that's all I have is infantry. And you can see these engineers here are getting pinned by the MG, so he has built one MG so far. So I decided to build an AT gun because I was just like, well, my opponent has most of the map right now. I am definitely losing in terms of victory points and map control. And he's also killed more of my units. He has a sniper, so he's killing my infantry. I am expecting vehicles soon, so you know what I'm going to do? I am going to build an AT gun. And this AT gun will actually be extremely useful in this game, as you will see. But going back to the current point in time, I apparently have 2 engineer squads and 2 conscript squads, and 3 of those squads are sitting in my base. One is elsewhere on the map going north. I think, looking at the minimap, it looks like he's going north. So I assume that is one of the engineer squads? Yes, it is. The engineer squad with the flamethrower is sitting in my base, while the one without a flamethrower is going and capturing points in the north. I really should have given him a flamethrower, but I think I forgot to do it. Now here you can see I'm zooming in on some mines that I placed. Another gripe that I have with the game, you can't mouse over your own mines, so I was looking here, like, I know I placed more mines than that one. Where were they? I can't remember. I couldn't remember where I placed my mines, so I was looking for them, and I couldn't find them, so I figured, well, either my opponent has a minesweeper, or he's run over them, or I can't find them. And I was worried he had a minesweeper. If he had a minesweeper, I didn't want to waste any more munitions planting mines, so I was actually looking pretty hard to try and find try to find my own mines that I forgot where I placed them. There we go, I did upgrade the flamethrower on these engineers, and because I did that, they will actually do a lot of damage to that grenadier squad. Over in the middle here, on my side of the middle, my AT gun is shooting his bunker, and it successfully killed his bunker. Apparently he was not supporting his bunker with any infantry to come attack my AT gun, so my AT gun won. I was actually kind of surprised at that. I thought the AT gun would get decrewed by the MG bunker, but it didn't. It beat the bunker, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'd actually just sent it out there hoping it would win. I didn't think it would, but it did, so that is awesome. But as I was explaining that, you may have noticed that my opponent placed an MG bunker over in the south of the map now, near that cutoff point. That squad needs to retreat. Now. There we go. But my opponent placed an MG bunker over in the south of the map, and as a result, I said, okay, well, I will just take this AT gun once I shell these infantry here, and then I will kill that MG bunker with this AT gun again. So it'll get 2 MG bunker kills on its own. Even though it's manned by infantry, it'll still win, which is interesting. Sadly though, my opponent did charge the AT gun, so my barrage is rather useless. I think my barrage also cost me munitions, which I did not realize at the time. So I am losing munitions, or using munitions really, to do nothing. Because the barrage is doing nothing. I thought it would just put it in barrage mode, kind of like one of the vehicles the Soviets have. It's an okay vehicle against infantry, but then you can also set it up to be artillery. You can like put it in artillery mode, and I figured that's what this thing was doing as well. So you could put it in artillery mode and tell it where to barrage. But little did I know that it was going to cost me munitions. So I kind of wasted munitions there. But it's okay because munitions are so easy to come by in this game. At least in my experience, it is. At some point, I apparently picked a Doctrine, and I apparently built a sniper. So I have two things to talk about. I don't know which Doctrine I picked, but it is my favorite as the Soviets. It gives me a hit the dirt ability for my conscripts, which allows me to basically they hit the dirt and they take less damage, but they don't move as a result. It also gives me guards rifles, which we will possibly see in this game. I believe I built them, but I may be wrong. It also gives me the ability to upgrade each conscript squad individually with Pepeshkas, PPSHs, which are submachine guns, and I can use those machine guns to do lots of damage at close range. And because they are more close range infantry, the machine guns are just basically going to increase their firepower overall and become great. Now here, as I have been moving my AT gun here, I am actually trying to get as far away from the MG bunker as I can, and the game was apparently lagging at this point, but I was trying to get as close as possible to the MG bunker so I could fire at it without it firing at me. And did I do it? I can fire at it now. It can fire at me. Dang it. Apparently it has a long enough range to where it can see me and I can see it. So that sucks, but luckily I am still winning, although I only have 2 men left. Am I going to kill this bunker? Yes, I do. I knew I was going to, but it was a matter of making you guys question whether or not to kill it, because that is fun. So I have 2 AT guns out on the field actually right now. I apparently built a second one at some point, which I did remember as I was commentating this, but I didn't know when I did that. Apparently I did it now. So I have a second AT gun, and an enemy panther shows up. Now I think my opponent didn't know how good the panther was or how bad the panther was. He just wanted the best vehicle he could get because he had so much fuel and he knew I was kinda sorta pinned in my base. So he went with the heaviest vehicle he could get, which is the panther. Little did he know, the panther sucks against infantry, so it's not going to do him too much good. And I also have an AT gun firing at the panther, so his panther is kind of limited. Do I have AT grenades? I do have AT grenades. So in the HQ, at some point, I also upgraded AT grenades on my conscripts, so my conscripts have the ability to throw AT grenades now. So they have the Molotov ability as well as the AT grenade ability. And they don't have a long recharge, so I can throw as many as I want because I have 153 munitions and they are rather cheap. So I can just use AT grenades on this panther, and I believe I threw one, and I'm throwing another one now, maybe? I don't know, I see yellow on the AT grenade ability at the bottom right on one of my squads, as you can see whenever I have them selected. So the panther now has a damage engine. AT grenades from conscripts are basically like stickies, except they don't have a timer. But where I was going with that is they basically are like stickies because they do criticals most of the time, if not all the time. I can't remember if it's all the time or most of the time, but they do a lot of criticals, so they are quite handy to have. His panther, as you can see, is actually circle strafing my AT gun, and he actually sniped the men out with his sniper. So I was just like, well, that AT gun has been decrewed. I just lost a flamethrower engineer squad. I still have 1 AT gun, which is good, and I have 1 conscript squad sitting in my base, I believe, and I have a sniper. So I have a sniper, and I wanted to talk about that earlier, but I can talk about it now. So Soviet snipers are 2 men, and as you saw, my opponent did have a sniper earlier in this game. So I actually built my sniper in response to his, and his sniper is 1 man, my sniper is 2 men. So I figured, well, even if he snipes me, I'm still going to have my sniper squad, so I won't lose as much manpower as he would if I sniped him. So I figured, well, let's move my sniper up, get some sniping done, and then retreat, which I did because he sniped one of my snipers. So I had to retreat the squad to make sure I didn't lose the whole sniper squad. That would be very, very bad. And I now know where his sniper is. And did my AT gun just annihilate his sniper? It did. You can see the body up there. You can see it. And we're about to see it up close, I think, because I zoomed in like, did I just kill that sniper? Is it dead? Maybe it didn't, though. I saw somebody go flying. Maybe he has 2 snipers. I don't know. But there's a sniper retreating, and now he's retreating his MG and engineer squad, or rather pioneer squad, because he's playing as the Germans. And I have basically won in the middle. So that is awesome. He had a panther. It didn't do him too much good, because it's not too great against infantry, and I had AT grenades and 2 AT guns, so his panther didn't last too long, it didn't do too much. So at this point I'm just like, okay, well, I was losing very terribly there, and my opponent had basically pushed me back into my base, but now I have destroyed his panther, I have forced most of his units to retreat back to his HQ. I should take this time to move up. And at the same time, I'm also thinking, what do I spend my resources on? And my answer was, well, I have enough AT. I have AT grenades, I have AT guns. I mean, I only have one AT gun, but the other one is, I think, available for crewing? Maybe? I think I crew it later in the game. But I have plenty of AT, so I should focus entirely on anti-infantry. Now, the Doctrine I picked, like I said, gives me the ability for my Conscripts to hit the dirt, and my Conscripts to get Pepeshkas, the submachine guns. So I figure, well, let's just build a ton of Conscripts, my basic infantry, and then just make them all really, really good, and then they'll win. And so that is basically going to be my strategy from here on out in this game, because I know I have plenty of AT, I only need anti-infantry, and I do have a sniper to deal with, like, MGs and such, so I don't need anything specialized for that kind of thing. I just need raw infantry, and I need to push and just take as many points as I can and push my opponent back into his base. Now this does bring up a topic about upkeep and comebacks. So upkeep works entirely differently in Company of Heroes 2, and in Company of Heroes 1, basically the more units you had on the field, the more upkeep you had, and it was just as simple as that. If you captured strategic points, you got +3 manpower per point, which kind of negated the upkeep, sorta, kinda. Not really, but you could change your manpower income like that. And in Company of Heroes 2, it is quite a bit different. Now when you capture strategic points, they give you munitions and fuel, no extra manpower. You get a flat 300 manpower per minute as either faction, and that is all you get throughout the whole game, is 300 manpower per minute. And that applies up to 25 populations. Right now I'm at 36, as you can see towards the right side, and the blue resource, I guess you could say. I have 36 population, so I am above the 25 cutoff, so I am getting less than 300 manpower per minute, and I think that's what happened to my opponent earlier in this game when I was beating his panther, was he had such a high population there that he had very, very little manpower income, and as a result he couldn't build units while I could, because I had very few units, so I had all 300 manpower income, and as a result I slowly whittled his units down to where he and I had a balanced unit count, and as a result I was able to push him back, and that was a small comeback, but it was a comeback. And that brings me into talking about comebacks in regards to population and upkeep, but I will talk about that after I chase this Panzerwerfer, who has been actually not doing very much at all. It seemed rather weak in this game. He didn't kill very much of anything, if I remember correctly, but I finally found it just by accident, by chance. So I decided to go chase it with my Conscript squad, because they do have AT grenades, and Panzerwerfers are not they're not strong units. They have very little HP and armor, so using AT grenades only, I am able to kill this Panzerwerfer. I think he actually forgot to micro it. He put it back there thinking I wouldn't chase it, but I did chase it, so he just lost a Panzerwerfer, and Panzerwerfers are not cheap, I don't think. It wouldn't make sense for them to be, because they are built in the Tier 4 building, the last building that you can build as either faction, because each faction only has 4 buildings that they can build. So I wouldn't imagine that they're cheap. I don't think they are. Never actually looked at the price. I just build them whenever I want, because I am so bad at this game that I float enough resources I can just buy them whenever I want a lot of the time. Oh, my opponent is making a huge mistake here. He might be throwing artillery down on me, but that sniper is revealed. I needed to kill the sniper. Yes. Yes, and there's a perfect example of how squads they do take more damage on retreat in this game than they did in Company of Heroes 1. Now, I did say I want to talk about upkeep and population and comebacks, so If you remember what I said earlier, basically my opponent had such a high population that he had very little manpower income because of the upkeep, and um, as a result, I was able to build units and whittle his units down until he had about the same number of units, so that we had the same upkeep and same manpower income, and that allows for comebacks. I know people don't really like the fact that you only get 300 manpower, and that's how it is the whole game until you reach 25 population, and then it goes down very, very rapidly after that. I don't like it either, but it does allow for huge comebacks in this game, and I know that's why they did it, is just to allow comebacks. We hear a Stuka diving. Where's it gonna hit? Where's it gonna hit? Oh, it hits my MG. Yeah, it hit my MG that I built, and it didn't actually do much of anything, but okay. So I lost an MG to a Stuka barrage, which actually is kind of a waste if I say so. I think that was a waste. But as I was saying, the upkeep system and the population system does make for does allow for huge comebacks in this game, because if you get pushed back into your base by an opponent with a ton of units, your opponent's not going to have very much manpower income, so he won't be able to build new units as he loses his. So even though you're losing your units, you're also defeating his units at the same time. So you're both doing about equal manpower damage to each other, but you're getting pushed back into your base because you're just playing worse. However, because your opponent can't rebuild his units because he doesn't have as high a manpower income as you do, he will slowly become unable to push you back, and eventually he'll have too few units to keep you held back, and you'll be able to come back into the middle of the map and start doing things again. So it does allow for some huge comebacks, and that is, I know that's what they were going for. I just don't know if they did. I think maybe they put too strong of an emphasis on comebacks there. I don't know, maybe, but that's basically why they did that. So as I was explaining that huge thing, which I did want to explain in this video, so I'm glad I have done it now, I was capturing both the north and the south of the map, so I have basically the whole map, about halfway the whole map, and you may have just heard a sound there. That was actually, I don't know what that is. I think one of my computer parts is dying and making sounds in my headset. I don't know, but it got recorded into the video, so hopefully I figure out what that was. I don't know. Hopefully I do. But anyways, I was capturing the whole north and south of the map, and so I basically have the whole map now, and my opponent is kind of pushed back into his base. I mean, he does still have some points, so he's not, like, not getting munitions and fuel, and he's not doing too bad. He's not in too bad of a shape, even though I am basically triple capping him with victory points. He is actually trying to capture the bottom part of the map, which is interesting. But one thing I do want to point out is look at my manpower income right now, 142. And look at my population, 65. Look at how many units I have in the top right. Quite a few units. So I have quite a few units, and that means I have a high population. And as a result, because I'm over the 25 population mark, I have a very, very low manpower income. And that means that I am not going to be able to replenish my units as well as my opponent can replenish his units. And this is where we really see the comeback mechanism in this game, because you will see that my manpower income is going to hurt me later on. Not too badly, but it will hurt me later on. Over here, looking at this, now that I'm retreating, I did use the Ura ability, but you will have noticed that it didn't actually save me there, and that is because I used it too late. You can't use Ura in a battle that you are losing terribly. It won't save you like that. It'll just give you an upper hand when you're fighting one-on-one versus a squad that's about equal to yours. It'll basically guarantee your victory. So I always recommend using Ura whenever you can, if it'll help you like that. Now I did rebuild the MG that I lost earlier to a Stuka barrage, and I am using it to suppress my opponent's infantry here. That AT gun is double vet, and I don't want to lose it, but it dies. It gets decrewed, so that really sucks. But I do send in some reinforcements. My MG is safe. My opponent has not decapped that point, that strategic point, and that means I I successfully pushed him back, and I, at the same time, am capturing points in the north and the south. So my opponent attacked, and I repelled the attack. However, because I have so little manpower income, it's going to be harder for me to replenish my troops after that, as opposed to how hard it'll be for him to replenish his troops, because he doesn't have near as many troops as I do. I am sure of that. So he has a higher manpower income. So I do recruit the AT gun, and it only recruits with 3 people. When you first buy it, it comes with 6, but when you recruit it, it only recruits with 3, which I thought was interesting. And as a result, I actually considered going back to base and remanning that all the way up to 6, but I decided against it because I figured, well, 3 is really enough. You don't need 6, it just comes with 6 because that's how the Soviets are. You get tons of men, and that's just how they work. But 3 is still plenty. They're skilled enough to use the gun with 3 men. So it looks like my opponent has actually done a pretty good job of decapping the points that I'm capturing in the south of the map, looking at the minimap. So he's not giving up yet, which is good. However, well, I wouldn't say I would have given up because I do know about the comeback mechanic in this game. He might be relying on that. I don't know. What I was trying to say earlier, far earlier in the video, was I don't know if they've done the comeback mechanic well. Like, I feel like they focus too much on it, so like you lose too much manpower. The income is too high, or not the income is too high. The income is too low. The upkeep is too high when you have a high number of units out on the field. But I don't know, because having a higher upkeep means that comebacks are more possible. Yeah, that sounds right. So I don't know. It just feels like it's too easy to make a comeback in this game compared to Company of Heroes 1. I do know that they are targeting more of the casual gamer with this game, as opposed to Company of Heroes 1. Company of Heroes 1 was more of a casual game than most RTS games at the time, but these days it is actually considered more of an advanced RTS game because people know the ins and outs of it. And so Company of Heroes 2 is even more of a casual game than Company of Heroes 1, even though Company of Heroes 1 was originally more of a casual game. So the fact that they have made it so easy to come back in this game is probably just to make it easier on casual gamers. So I don't know. I think it's maybe too strong. It's too easy to make a comeback. I feel like if you are able to push your opponent into their base, you should win. I mean, that's how it is in Company of Heroes 1, unless your opponent is just really, really smart. And I feel like it's how it should be in this game, but it's not. It's extremely easy to get a comeback in this game. Now, as you can see, there's actually a plane shooting down stuff, shooting enemy units down on the ground, and that is my IL-2 Sturmovik ability that I have at the very end of this Doctrine, whatever Doctrine I picked. I have no idea. I don't know. I just like it. I don't know the names of any of the buildings in this game. I don't know the names of any of the Doctrines. I just play the game. But anyways, my opponent quit, and that was just after the IL-2 Sturmovik, which annihilated most of his infantry. I don't know if he would have lost or won. I think he would have lost at that point, because I had annihilated just so much infantry of his, but I don't know. But like I said, he ended up quitting, so I won, which is awesome. And that was my very first auto match game, as you can see as I moused over that I don't know what to call that thing. Metal, I guess. I just realized my mouse is not recording. Oh dear. I should probably do something about that. But anyways, my opponent apparently built a broom bar. It's good against infantry, I guess. And it looks like it. And it has lots of armor. It looks like it has lots of armor. So he built it. He never used it. I don't know if it would have been of any use to him, because he does only have one infantry squad. And it's that Pioneer squad right there on screen. So he didn't have much at all remaining. He had 3 units. A Pioneer squad that was almost dead, a broom bar, and a Panzerwerfer, which is the vehicle, the rocket launching vehicle that was next to the Pioneer squad. Looking at my units though, just look at the top right and you can see everything I have. It was a lot more than my opponent had, so I do think I would have won at that point. I had triple capped him, I had just killed so much of his infantry, he didn't have much of a chance. I was also floating lots of manpower. As you can see, my manpower income is 168, so it's very, very little income from my manpower, or for my manpower, but it didn't actually hurt me in this game at the end. So now we go on to the stats, and I actually want to show you these stats in this first video. I don't know if I'll show it in every video. Let me know if you are interested in seeing that stuff, but in this video, we will show it because the stats are entirely different compared to Company of Heroes 1 stats. So first off, we have the personal tab, and here we can see all the units, like what did what and such, and I don't really find much info in that. But then we have the overview stats, and we can see like the number of units each person killed, the number of units lost, and captures, and how many points we lost, and stuff like that. I listed everything but damage dealt, so also damage dealt, and now I've listed everything. But looking at our stats, my opponent did better than I did in every single category, and yet I won. So I don't know how that works, but that's what happened. Now we go on to graphs, and there's actually 3 different kinds of graphs. We're looking at army value right now, and as you can see, my opponent actually had a huge army value at some point, and I had a very low army value at some point in the middle of the game. But then I came back, and that high army value was probably when he had the panther around that time. I think that's when it would be. Now we go over onto the resource floating graphs, so how many resources you floated. As you can see, at the very end, I end up floating lots and lots of resources. And now we go over to the points held graph, which I don't really know. I mean, you can see in the middle that I lost most of the map, and he had most of the map, but like I said, I came back from that after I killed his panther and a lot of his infantry. And the graph here is actually correlated to the first graph, whatever it was called. I don't remember, but it correlated, so I think I'm going to show you that later on. Come on, CMA Supra. It's your future self telling your past self what to do, as if your past self hasn't already done it. Maybe we should just cut the video. Nah. Yeah, I should, actually. Let's go back to it. Alright, so now you can see the army value and the points held graphs right next to each other, and you will see that they are actually directly correlated. So around the middle of the game, my opponent had a bigger army value, and I had a very small army value, and he also had a higher map control, as you can see in the right graph, and I had a low map control. So I just wanted to point out that these are correlated together, and it indicates where the comebacks happen and whether or not you maximized your army usage. Like if you have a high army value, but you don't increase your map control in these graphs, you will notice that you suck at getting your map control back. So you're not doing a good job using your army well. But as you can see in my graphs, I did well. I made the comeback. You can see the comeback is right in the middle of the game, basically. So that's what I wanted to point out by cutting the video. So I think that'll be it for this video because this is the end of the game. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.